Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Fact of the Day. And this animal is what we're going to be looking at today. Do you know what it is? Well done. You said it is a sperm whale. Excellent stuff. But how do you know that? How do you know it's a sperm whale? Well, whales are mammals, not fish. And that's a big clue. I've got a diagram here, which shows a dolphin, which is also a mammal, not a fish. And one of the big differences is how they swim. Um, Mammals have what's called a horizontal tail that goes up and down. If you ever look at clips of them swimming, you'll see the tail goes up and down that way. Whereas fish, such as sharks, theirs goes side to side. So they've got what's called a vertical fin, which goes side to side, not up and down. That's how mammals swim. Another big difference is the gills. Sharks and fish breathe underwater and they need gills to do that. So the gills are very obvious. Mammals can't breathe underwater, so they don't have gills. They can't breathe underwater. Um, they hold their breath for a very long time and then need to come up to the surface to take big gasps, big gulps of air. And fish and that tend to have these little additional kind of fins here. But the tail and the gills are one of the most telltale things. And if we go back to our picture, look, we can see a horizontal tail here. So that's for going up and down, like a mammal, and no gills to be seen. Let me go to this picture now. Is this a mammal or is this a fish? Have a close look. It's very big. You'd think, that looks like a whale. Is it a mammal or is it a fish? You can have a pause if you like, but let's have a look. Well, if you look closely here, we can see gills, which means it's breathing underwater, which means it is a fish, not a mammal. And another clue is look at this tail. It's vertical. It swims its tail going side to side, which means it's a fish. And look, it's got all these other little fins here, which is a classic sign of a fish. This is actually the largest fish in the world. It's called a whale shark. I think it's just called whale because of the size, but it is a type of fish, the largest fish, a whale shark. And look at the size of it. Beautiful animal. Totally harmless. It just feeds on these tiny little creatures in the sea called plankton. So these divers are completely safe. So there is a whale shark, and that is how we could tell this was a whale, is a mammal. But how do we know specifically that it's a sperm whale? Well, just the size of its head. It's got a massive head, and in fact, it's a massive animal. Look at the size of it compared to an elephant, and compared to a human. It's huge. Look at this length, up to 19 meters. Absolutely massive. It can weigh between 35 to 50 tons. And it's so big, and it doesn't feed on these little creatures. It feeds on fish and giant squid. So to catch them, it needs big teeth, big teeth, and it is actually the biggest toothed animal in the world, which is a cool fact. And also another cool fact: it's got the biggest brain of any animal ever, which is cool. It doesn't mean it's the smartest animal. Our brains aren't as big, yet we're very smart. But it does have the biggest brain of any animal ever, which is very cool. So here's another shot of its giant head. If you see a whale with this massive head, you're almost guaranteed it's a sperm whale. But why does it have this massive head? Well, it's actually full of a fluid called spermaceti, which is why it's called a sperm whale. It's got this fluid all in here called spermaceti, but scientists still don't know what it does. What does this fluid do? Some think that it helps it to dive and then to rise up, to sort of sink or float. It can help it do that. Some think that it helps it to hunt, which we'll talk about later. So there you go, spermaceti, the fluid in there. Big animals like this need a lot to eat. And as I said before, it eats fish and giant squid. In fact, it needs a ton of fish, quite literally a ton of fish and giant squid to keep it alive. And it needs to eat that per day. So, to put that in a bit of perspective for you, let's say you had a pet sperm whale. You'd need a big tank. um, how many fish do you think you would need to feed it every day to keep it alive? And just say it's a normal fish that you would get from the shop. One that you would get with your fish and chips. How many of those fish do you think you would need to feed your pet sperm whale every day? Well, I'll tell you, it's over 11,000. 11,000 fish every day you would need to keep your sperm whale alive. Wow, that's a lot of food. So what else can we learn about the sperm whale? Well, they live in groups called pods. So they live in pods. And much like an elephant herd, a group of elephants is called a herd, and much like them that we learned about earlier, it's made up of mainly females and young sperm whales. The males, again, a lot like elephants, tend to be alone, and they might visit different herds, but they tend to just be by themselves. It's quite funny how it's similar to the elephant, but yeah, a pod is a group of sperm whale. Now, how do they hunt? Oh, this one's black. Why have I put it back? Well, they hunt in the darkness of the oceans, up to 1,000 meters down where the sun can't reach, so it's pitch black down there. And they need to hold their breath for up to an hour and a half. One breath. Imagine going to the swimming pool and holding your breath for an hour and a half underwater. Wow. It's quite incredible. I think scientists are only still just working out just how they do that. Now, down that deep, there is a lot of water above your head, and that is a serious amount of weight, a serious amount of pressure. How can we describe this pressure? Well, yeah, it's a rhino. And picture yourself with 50 Ps all over your body. Here's a bunch of 50 Ps. Picture them all over your body. Your body is entirely covered everywhere in 50 Ps. Now imagine the weight of a rhino on every single one of those 50 Ps. I mean, one rhino of it lay on top of you would just crush you. So can you imagine all its weight on a tiny little 50p and all over your body? That is the same pressure that a sperm whale has to withstand down there. And again, scientists are just still really trying to understand how do they, I mean, it should just crush them. How do they survive that? It's quite incredible. So they're down in the darkness, under all that weight of water, holding their breath. So what do they hunt down there? Well, it's pretty cool. Oops, sorry. They hunt fish and giant squid. Giant squid. Scientists are still really learning about these creatures. Incredibly difficult to find them because it's so difficult to get down there. But look, I've put a thing up here to show you the size of a giant squid. Some might be bigger than this. A ferocious predator if you're a fish, but they get hunted themselves by the sperm whale. And they actually have in here a very sharp beak. And if you look closely, I'll actually go back to the start and show you. You can see scars where some squid have tried to battle with the sperm whale. And I'd imagine the sperm whale would more often not win. So there you go. But you might be asking, well, okay, it's pitch black down there. How on earth do they find these things? Well, it's something quite common in nature, and it's something very fancy. Fancy word coming up. Alert. Echolocation. Echolocation. They use sound. They can't see, they can't use their eyes. They need to use sound. And bats do this as well. They will send out a sound. Sometimes that sound we might not be able to hear it. Like bats, we won't be able to hear that sound, but bats can. They send out a sound by a call, they call it, and then that sound travels. So let's say we'll pick our dolphin here. Dolphins use it too. And that in the yellow here, it travels out, the sound travels out, and it will bounce off anything it hits. And whatever it bounces off will come back in the red here, and the dolphin will be able to work out where it is, where the object is, the shape and the size. And it might work out that, that must be fish. And it'll constantly be giving out these sounds and be able to pinpoint exactly where these fish are. And the sperm whales do the same. So they'll use sound, echolocation, down there in the darkness to find these giant squid. And bats do the same. They'll be looking for moths. So they'll send out these sounds. And it also stops them, flying into a tree. It'll be able to see the tree with sound. Amazing stuff. And actually, humans have copied them, have copied nature. Nature always thinks of it first. I mean, think about it. Nature was flying way before humans were. Then we just copied them. Oh, look, wings. We'll do that. And they did exactly the same with echolocation. You might know it as sonar. Same thing. Submarines use it, so they can avoid objects such as islands and crashing into big rocks, and also for spotting enemy boats and submarines. So there you go, echolocation. And just to finish off, you might be thinking, how on earth do they sleep? They need air. I mean, if they just went to sleep, they would sink, they wouldn't have any air, and they would die. Well, here's a very cute picture I found of sperm whales having a nap. How cool is that? Now, they don't need a lot of sleep at all. They'll be like this for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and that'll be them happy. Sperm whales do not need a lot of sleep. And if you think they can hold their breath for an hour and a half, 10, 15 minutes, it's going to be no problem to them. How cool is that? So imagine coming across that. They were very confused. They were like, what on earth are they doing? And then they realized that they were sleeping. And I've got another picture here. How amazing is that? Just a pod of sperm whales having a nap. So there you go. There's lots of different facts you can take from that. The biggest toothed animal in the world, biggest brain, all sorts of cool things. Echolocation, very, very smart. I hope you enjoyed that one. I really did. I enjoyed it a lot. And we'll see you next time. Bye.